Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu salam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Halin wa salim bikum. Salamu alaykum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Lil ikwani wati fi din. Salamu ala mani taba huda lil ikwani wati fi Africa, Europa, America, Caribbean wa kulli makan. How are you doing today, my brothers and sisters, wherever you may be? This is a work day for many, I understand. And I wanted to get this out. And those who will show up in the future, may Subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and keep your families safe. And this is again, another sensitive topic about the African Americans. And in this case, we're talking about the religion that they have been forced to adhere to for over 400 years. And there's a lot of contention about that. We know African Americans are leaving in droves to join Islam. The biggest jump from Christianity, they're leaving it, they're going to Islam. They're not going to other religions like Buddhism or anything like this. That's rare. They're going to Islam. But there is a movement going in the Americas of the African Americans in particular are now going to the ancient Egyptian Kemet religion, and they are adopting that. But after someone told me that, and my sister also had made mention to me about this fact, I looked into some of the groups that they were supposed to be, joining, and they're not actually adapting to the religion as it was taught over 5,000 years ago. They're taking portions of it, and that's another matter in itself. But they're not really accepting it. So what do we do about this situation? And that's why I wanted to discuss that. And we have to look at it from a standpoint of honesty. And here, I'm not trying to force anyone down their throat Islam or something like this. This is not the case. But I'm just discussing what has been discussed. And we know this is running rampant in the African American communities across the country about Christianity. We know that, and so forth and so on. And we're seeing some celebrities, some African American notables who claim that they are very deeply religious, spouting off the name of Jesus. We know him in Islam, in Arabic as Isa, and so forth and so on. And I find that sometimes kind of hilarious because they're spouting out his name, but yet they're not practicing the tenets that Jesus ﷺ preached and enforced. As you heard me say many times, he said in the Bible, he said, I'm not here to take down the Torah, but I'm here to enforce it. So that's the contention. Also here, I'm going to discuss another matter too, brothers and sisters. We have African Americans leaving Christianity and they're running back to ancient Egypt and looking that direction for guidance, spiritual guidance. But the majority of the African Americans who leave Christianity are going to Islam. We know that. But I'm going to discuss some aspects about the Egyptian religion because I need for you to know those things, because when you, brother or sister, who's deciding now, I want to jump on board an African religion, so you need to know what you're actually getting into. See, because that's just because you hear people say something and you go to it, you shouldn't. You should know about that. So We'll get started here. What has Christianity done actually for the African Americans? What has it done for them? Has it left them to the straight path? No. Has it given them justice? No. Have it given them peace of mind and salvation? No. In this religion, is it yours? Is it actually the religion of the African Americans? We say in the Arabic language, and we say in Quranic Arabic, I should say, when we have something like this, where something is resoundingly no, we say Allahumma la means no. Or if there's something strong and we deeply say we know it is, then we say Allahumma now in Arabic language and Quranic Arabic. When we talk about something in a confirmation, here we would say no to it, Allahumma la, because we know this is not the case. And anyone who claims to be that he says that all of these are positives, they are not. Because if he answers, yes, this is the case, it has led this, then I don't know where you're at, because that is not the case at all. So again, when we look at this, has this religion really taken you down the straight path leading you to salvation? And those answers here should be no, if you're honest. Second, or does Christianity belong to the Tubab Americans? Now we have to answer that fairly. And the back of the minds, as African Americans, you know this is the case. It doesn't belong to you. And second to that, the African Americans, are you well acquainted with the changes of your religion? Because the powers to be among the Tubab have changed Christianity to benefit them. They left out books, they changed the wording of what Subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and so forth, so on. See, we know this is the case because you heard me say many times, there's 140 versions of the Bible today. And that's really not good. This religion is divided into two parts. And brothers and sisters, the African Americans who are Christians, or those who are, modern Christians, whatever you want to call it, secular Christians, whatever you want to call this. But the Christian religion is divided into to two parts. One is Hebrew and the other is Tubab. The names of the Old Testament and the names of the New Testament reflect this allegation. You look at the Old Testament, it's actually in the quote unquote biblical languages of names. The New Testament honors and harbors the names of Western Europeans who were not even there at the time when Jesus was born and when he died and when he was doing his prophethood. They were not there, but their names appear in the in the New Testament. So the Bible's divided into one Hebrew, one Tubab, European or American, namely European, because the Europeans came on the scene before the Americans, white Americans came on. So this is a situation, again, about allegations. It's divided into two parts. And see, what has happened is because the powers to be in the so-called Christian religion and the powers to be of Judaism, they have clashed. And so both have made allegations against the other. The Jewish scholars say that the New Testament is badly flawed. Those in the New Testament, talking about the Tubab American scholars, saying that the Old Testament is flawed. Both are talking against the other, and yet they have a book that's compiled with their beliefs in it, which makes this more difficult, because caught in between is is the African American and others. And so you were forced down the road to join the Tubab and the New Testament. In the New Testament, the scholars, theologians of Christianity at the time changed these things around, allowing you to smoke, allowing you to drink, allowing you to eat pork, allowing you to fornicate, and all the way down the line, which the Old Testament is vehemently against. The Old Testament tells you as a woman that you should carry yourself in chastity, meaning don't wear clothing that exhibits your natural beauty. We all know, we're adults here, we all know what that means. Don't display it. The New Testament gives you the option of displaying this. If you want to walk down the street to display your ornaments and your beauty, you can. Even if it's like I was looking through the things today, I saw a picture, and I think it was in New York City some years back now. A lady decided to walk down the street with two like small cups around the nipples of her breast and a small, underwear, that just you know what I mean. So this is what we're talking about. That's covered under the New Testament, but it's not covered under the Old Testament. If this religion was out of your great ancestors of Africa, was it? Why didn't they accept it and adopt to it? We have to ask that question. African American brothers and sisters, our ancestors did not accept the Christianity. It was thrown down their throats. And it was a reason why they didn't accept it. See? And why they didn't accept and adapt to it. Why were they forced to accept and worship under it? Because this is a way to keep you under wraps. And they forced name changes. They forced you to now take the names, their names, and say these, these were Christian names, when in fact they weren't. See, these are some issues, brothers and sisters, that we have to be honest about with the African Americans. Because you have to ask the religion, you have to ask yourself about a religion when you have two factions in it. One is the Old Testament telling you you can't smoke, you can't drink, you can't eat pork, you can't fornicate, and all the way down the line. Then the other part of the religion says, yes, you can smoke, you can drink, you can fornicate, and you can wear loose clothing, and you can do peripheral things. What kind of religion is that? When you have two factions like that. Both said that they are right on cue with Subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you say you profess you believe in Jesus, Jesus said he's there to enforce the Torah. The Torah is the Old Testament. See? So this is a big thing, brothers and sisters. We've got one brother. How you doing, Rick and Jamie? How you doing? Salam, my dear brother. Thank you for showing today. I greatly appreciate that. And today is a work day, I know, for many. And I didn't give a lot of people a lot of notice on this one. So forgive me for that. But it came in my mind. I've been thinking about this for a couple of days now. And I just wanted to talk about this issue. Thank you again, my dear brother, for showing up to date. Thank you very much. Does this religion promote healthiness, cleanliness, and wholesomeness? We have to be honest, brothers and sisters. Does Christianity promote this? If it did, then why we have all of this malaise that's running in the United States? Now, someone point, well, look at Islam, look at Saudi Arabia, look at this. Let me tell you something. You make a comparison. You take the United States and you take any of the 57 Muslim states. Tell me who is mirrored in crime. The United States is. Not, as you heard me say how many times? Many times. It's dark right now. It's late. I can walk down the street. I don't worry about drive-by shootings. I don't worry about muggers. Yes, we have some here and there. We have more. We have petty theft. It's growing. Petty theft because of the hard times now, economics and so forth. People don't have jobs. That's growing. But there's still a very small percentage. In the United States, you're most likely to get mugged, shot, home invaded, carjacked, all this. We don't have that in the 57 Muslim states. I'm just giving that for example, just to tell you about this issue. Does this religion promote healthiness, cleanness, and wholesomeness? And you know it does not. If this religion is powerful, why is the religion and the churches are failing? Brothers and sisters, we know right now there's thousands upon thousands of churches in the United States have failed. They're out of business now. And when they went out of business, usually the bishop or the pastor, whatever you want to call him, made out with millions. He's living in a big place with beautiful cars and so forth and so on. And the church folds, he goes on about another church and he's already rich. This is what we're talking about in the religion. And African Americans are very, very notorious for this. We have very rich bishops, pastors, and whatever else you want to call them, living very well. See? And now we have churches being abandoned because it's failing. The younger people now in the United States are not actually going to the churches at all. Most of them now have become agnostic. They don't believe in anything, or atheists. I mean, some are agnostic, many are just out and out atheists. They don't believe in anything anymore. This is because of the so-called Christian leadership. When you see you sit there, and this used to bug me when I was in the United States. I see these guys talking, yet and still they don't condemn slavery. They don't condemn the lynchings. They don't condemn the discrimination that has happened and rampant in the United States against African Americans. They don't talk against it as a general rule. That's why I said it's a two-pronged religion. One is theirs, and they tell you accept that. The other is actually Jewish or Hebrew, which they tell you're not supposed to accept. And then on the same token, many of the in that community don't want to accept you either. See? Okay, we got here. You must look into the Moroccan invasion of Songhai. They invaded. Okay, yes, but we're not talking about the history. We know about the history. I know very well about what happened when they came and invaded present-day Mali and took over Timbuktu and so forth and so on. That was a different issue. This is a Islamic issue there. Here we're talking about the people in America, and that's what the subject matter is at hand. I'm not here today to talk about the African part of what happened in Balad es Sudan when Morocco invaded Songhai. They enslaved, yes, but nothing compares to the transatlantic slave trade. None. That slave trade depopulated West Africa and is still depopulated today. When Europeans discovered the Americas that no longer needed precious gems from our trade, but they wanted slaves. Yes, they traded. Yes, we know this. They traded, and when they began to develop, they figured they enslaved the Indians. When that didn't work, because the Indians died off or escaped into the forests and so forth and so on, they started bringing in African slaves because the southern, especially the south central and southern parts of the southern part of the United States is very similar to many of the climates here in West Africa. Very similar, but not tropical, but very similar. So it's more easier for the Africans to adopt to when they brought them in. So we know this as a fact as well. The church across the countries, in many instances, African Americans cannot attend non-American church, non-Tubob American churches, which should be said. You think about that, brothers and sisters. And this is a fact. This is why you have black churches, quote unquote, and you have white churches, quote unquote. See, and that's not good. That's not good. That is not a sign of a healthy religion when it's divided that way, where a black man can't go to a church where it's predominantly white. Or if you do go, they ostracize you for that. See, these are all the things, recipes for the African American to let him to really start to think about his ways and means in it. If it's time to leave it, because you've been struggling for acceptance under Christianity and you still not accepted today at all. Now, we're not talking about sports and entertainment. They've always had the acceptance of us, and they will pay top dollar to see us box, see us run, see us jump, see us hit a baseball, see us throw a football, and see us doing jump shots on the basketball court. They'll pay for that. But that's their escape, and they want to see you in that. They don't mind that. They're accustomed to that. They like that, and they prefer that. But as far as adopting to them accepting you fully, they do not. So does this church promote brotherhood? African Americans, can anyone really sit back here and say that the Christianity that we know inside the United States promote brotherhood? That's one for you guys to answer. We see what we have here. Okay. Let me see here. We got here. Brother says here, you should look up Samuel Sharp. He sparked the end of slavery through the British Empire. Yes, they did. We know that they left, but they did still have slavery and so forth and so on. And they did stop the slavery. But they still carried on with discrimination. We know that. And that discrimination was very, very telling. When it went on to the white man, what is called the white man's burden, they went around the world and they killed mostly black people. When they went down to Australia, they killed the Aborigines. They wiped out all the black people of Tanzania. Boy, this is funny, my English. I forgot that island. This little south of Australia, there were black people there. They wiped them all out. They are extinct. There's none left. So we know that for a fact. They went around and colonized and enslaved and raped their way all over the place. See, so we know that for a fact. The church, last its original revolutionary spirit, Christianity started with revolution. Yes, it started with that. I don't care how it started, but it was thrown onto the African Americans. The African Americans didn't adopt it willingly. Yes, in this modern times they did, but they was thrown down their throats. And many African Americans probably want to leave it, but because they have been brainwashed to the point where they feel that if they do leave it, they will be cursed. And this is not a good thing. Many know that the religion is flawed, but yet still they stay in it. And this is what we're talking about today. It's got to the point to where the religion is used and is benefit those who are promoting it. When something is not right, they use the Bible against you. But when it's against them, then they seem to throw those same bylaws out. How you doing, my dear brother? Walaikum salam. Got to. Thank you very much for showing up today. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Which ended slavery in America? Please make a video on the Arab slave trade. I don't need to make a video on the Arab slave trade. I talked about that about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. I talked about that aspect of it because I talked to, I forgot what I called the program now. It was a message, I think, to the Afro Arabs. It was the 3 sections to this segments. I talked about this issue and I talked about the so-called Arabs in Africa and so forth and so on. I talked about that issue. I'm not going to talk about today, and I won't talk about it another time because I've already cleared that up. I talked about the issues between the Arabs and the black man in America. And I also talked about that issue about in Africa as well, because there is a still a little friction between the North and the sub-Saharan South. There's still some friction there as we speak. Thank you, my dear brother, for showing up today. No problem. I know you're a very busy man. You have a lot of things to do and everything, but you showed up. I'm happy to see that and whatnot, because this is a very touchy subject. I know that many may not like what I have to say about it because it's a tradition. It's not religion. It's a tradition among the African Americans. This is a big difference because it's not because I'm gonna get into a section of Kempt in a bit, but how is the worship in Eurocentric Christianity as compared it where it's supposed to be? When you look at the Old Testament, all the prophets prostrated to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. When they went to the synagogue to pray, or they prayed to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, they always have made ablution, meaning clean their hands, face, and feet. When they entered into the synagogue, this is what they had. There's passages inside in the Old Testament, I believe. I'm not sure. I can't remember where it's at now. But anyway, it talks about this purification we call ablution. They talk about that. The religion was prostration to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Today, the religion of Christianity is no prostrations at all. You go to church, you don't even make ablution. You go to church, you put on good clothes and all that, but you don't take the like you are ordered to do by the prophets of old. Like in Islam, before we go to pray inside the masjid, we have to make ablution, clean, our hands, face, arms, and feet, and so forth and so on. They don't do this in Christianity. In Eurocentric Christianity, they just don't do that. Thank you again, my dear brother, for showing up. And his revolution allowed Black immigrants to hold office. Yeah, but again, yes, we know there's some good stories here and there, but we're talking about salvation. And I'll say to you now, you get leaders of the Christian community to get together and they start to talk. But how are they not drawing the young people now? Our young people are getting in trouble, going into the prisons and coming out Muslims. Now, you read the statistics. I'm not just talking. Our young people are ganging. They're, slanging and banging, and then getting caught, and then going into prisons and meeting OGs. The OG Muslims bring these brothers on, and they come out as Muslims. How many who are slanging and banging go into the prison, then come out, quote unquote, a devout Christian? Very few. Because what is a devout Christian? If he's a devout Christian, that means he follows the ways of the prophets. And though that one he worships is Jesus, alayhi salam. But they don't follow that. They're following what the society has told them to follow. See? So, yes, it's done this. Yes, it's done that. But we're talking about salvation and what has it done to elevate the African Americans. And if it was in another time, if I'm back in Compton, California, I would say something bad in a bad language about that issue. What has it done? What has it done for us? Under Christianity, we know slavery was adopted. Under Christianity, we know that the slave master who went to church on Sunday, who made the African slaves to read, not to read, but listen to their sermon, and at nighttime, he would take our women and bed them down under the Christian banner. When the slave ships went to West Africa to get us, many of the names on the ships had reflection on Christianity. This is the Lord Jesus Christ. I forgot, there were some ridiculous things that they put on these boats when they went to West Africa to take our ancestors. This is what I'm talking about. See? And so, yes, United States became the most powerful country in the world. But that power is starting to go by, and they are not liked. It's a big difference. You think about this. It's a big difference of being liked and being feared. The people fear the United States. They don't like the United States. They fear the United States. That's all. And they see it as a place to take something from it. That's it. Not because they love it. It's because they want something from it, especially immigrants. And we have to be honest in that aspect. Thank you very much, my dear brother. Yes, subscribe. And speaking to that, thank you very much, my dear brother, for reminding me of this. You know, I got over 1,000 subscribers now. I'm very happy and very delighted to see that. And I want to thank my brothers and sisters all who, put their trust in my leadership and my schooling and so forth and so on, and videos. And I really appreciate that you guys subscribe to me. But like our dear brother said, please still subscribe and pass this on to other brothers and sisters and so forth and so on, because these type of talks are not easy to come by. You know that it's not easy for us to talk about. A lot of people don't broach these subjects, and when they do, they don't broach it in such a way that is good. Most West Africans who were taken they were either, this is like we talked about before, our dear brother said it right, they were traditional African religion or they were Muslims. They weren't Christians. See, that's the funny thing. They weren't any of that. Prophet owned slaves. Jesus never did. Now wait a minute. Wait a minute. See, this is where you are wrong in some aspects. There's in any religion, when you start to you have to be smart. It's just like when you make new laws. When you make stringent laws in the land, if you go straight to that, when you don't give people adjustment period, it's going to backfire. The Prophet ﷺ knew that as well. People had slaves because when they had wars, they would enslave, and this is going on for mankind. And on the Jazir and Jazir Arab, there's no difference. They would hit Bedouins and fight with them, and they would enslave their women or their menfolk. When Islam came along, the people who were servants to them is not the slavery that you see in the United States. It was not that type of slavery. It was a different type of slavery. So that gradually it was taken out. See, because if he cold turkeyed it and all the laws to bring in the Sharia, he may have a hard time. So he starts slowly, because in Jazir Arab, what we call khamr is a wine. They made a wine and stuff like that they would drink. That was slowly taken from people because they wanted the adjustment period. See, so when that situation began to wane, the Prophet ﷺ began to make comments to get people away from slavery. See, but it's not the slavery that we had in Europe or in the Americas. See, and Jesus ﷺ is a different situation because their people were being enslaved. The Hebrews were basically being enslaved. They were not in charge of anything. They were under the Romans. So it's a big difference. Big difference. Oh yeah, congrats. Thank you very much, my dear brother. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. Thank you, my dear brother. Thank you very much that for those kind words. Yes, it is for especially somebody like me, because they, I was out for a couple of months because they were doing everything they can to block me from YouTube, putting on a dummy site. They did a lot of things, and what it looks like now, YouTube. After I screamed and hollered and went to the right people, they saw what was happening, and now because I understand people are starting to be able to subscribe again because before they, my understanding, I lost maybe 400, 500, 600 subscriptions because when someone was subscribed, these enemies of ours begin to take their subscriptions away. People say, hey man, I subscribed to you. Then I go back and it was removed. But it seemed like YouTube have corrected that. So alhamdulillah, that's good in that regard because I screamed a lot about that. Okay, one more and I'll go back to this because I got things to do. Started slavery by pack. No. That's not true. That's not true. You saying here he started slavery, which states Muslims cannot enslave another. No, it was not that. The Prophet ﷺ had something, and you have to understand the Islamic religion. It's not Islamic night. But if you're going to bring stuff about Islam, you should know your business. Okay, I'm a scholar in Islam, and I'm telling you right now, what you put here is absolutely is hogwash. Because the Prophet ﷺ on his last speech talked to the Muslims, meaning, and there's the hadiths, we have sciences, we have indices that we use in Islam. And the Prophet talked about a term, and I'll say, and you heard me say this, those who follow me, Muslim, aku Muslim, in Arabic, meaning a Muslim is a brother, regardless. If he was Romi, they call Romi, meaning what the Muslims called the Europeans, all at one time they call them Romi, meaning Romans. Romi is Arabic. And when they came to Islam, they were brothers. Muslim aku brother. Muslim aku Muslim means brother to another Muslim. See, so that ended that. But we still have segments of population who would enslave. So you have to understand that. And they were being fought because they had what is called the Ridda Wars, where the Khalifa was mad when the Prophet ﷺ died, and they start trying to go back to their drinking, fornicating, and changing the religion and all that. And they have wars over this. The Ridda Wars, meaning those who basically left their faith, and then the Khalifa went to go fight them. So this is not right here. This is not right. And I'll say this, and I'm gonna stop on this. When the Muslims fight, this is a big difference how we look at this. When we fought against somebody, we have rules. We would never leave the woman out there. If we hit a place, the Muslims fought and they were victorious. They just didn't go, and you could not rape the women and you could not do things to them. We just didn't throw them out there, let them go. We took them into the Islamic community and they were given to households. The man who was responsible for them, we call handmaidens in translation English. They were responsible for their care. They had rights to them, yes, if she agreed. And if she agreed to come to Islam, we cannot force her to come to Islam. So we have to understand that history. See, and it's not slavery, because yes, they worked in the house and they were under the guise of Muslims, but they were protected. The man had to provide for them. He had to do everything. He had to respect them. He could not ravish them, so forth and so on. If she consented to having relations with her Muslim caretaker, then she could, and there was no one's blameworthy for this. It's a long story on that. And again, I'm not going to get deep into the Islamic part of it here. We got some other people here. Okay, I'm gonna see what he's got. El Cid is a good movie that shows. No, it's not, man. You know what? I think I know what you're kind of doing here. I think I understand what you're doing here. How you doing, my brother here? Salam, walaikum salam, rahmatullahi barakatuh. Thank you very much, brother. How you doing, my dear brother? Most African Americans will not give up Christianity because they are very little accountability. You can commit sin. This is what I've said. I said this earlier, talked about that. And because the African American community is so filthy, to be honest with you, in our morals and our character, it is so filthy, and it's accepted in the Christianity religion. And you're right, they can't get past that. But we do have African Americans now starting to clean up. But when they do clean up, where did they clean up under? Islam. This is the funny thing. And I said earlier that we have youngsters, our youngsters, who are slanging and banging in all major cities of the United States, get caught, go to the prison where they encounter OG Muslims. The OG Muslims take them under their wing, and those young brothers who were hardened, Crips, Blood, Rolling 20s, all of the gangs that, I'm just naming some I know in California, and all the gangs and stuff that they got across the United States, now they come out as model citizens and now as Muslims. See, so this is a contention that we have. Thank you, my dear brother, for that. Now, I'm going to get back to something here. I'm going to get, and because I want to get to Egypt. I'm going to get to Egypt here in a minute. Did this religion that you profess to and cry over promote slavery? Yes, it did promote slavery. As you heard me say, they came on slave ships with the name of the prophet Jesus on it. And when they entered the shores in West Africa, they raped African women under the banner of Christianity. And when they promoted the slavery, it went on. And then when slavery was taken out 200 years later, then they brought an offshoot of it called Jim Crow. Then they start to bring in wholesale lynching, all this under banner of Christianity. And we still have portions of Jim Crow today. We still show percentages in I guess our brother, probably Marcus, because he's an educator, will tell you probably the same thing. Statistics show that we don't have forced segregation today in schools, but schools are still relatively segregated. Like a study I saw some years back now. That's not good. That's not good, brothers and sisters. That's not good. Okay, we see this, and I'll touch on here. Our brother, I pray that the community is able to call out the yes, and every other, and it has a code, but the community where anything, yes, it's going to be very difficult. The African American cannot clean up inside America. I don't feel that. I really don't believe that. Even if he accepts Islam, it'd be better for him. But I'm going to get into something here in a minute to because there's some African Americans are starting to lean towards this. They're starting to look back into the African continent. And they are still hesitant about Islam. But they kind of look at Islam as the Arab religion. So they look back in Africa, trying to search for some salvation. And they're now going back to ancient Egypt for that. We have societies doing this now. See, when you call out something that's clear, that yes, yes. See that's an issue. I'll give you an example. When I came over here to Africa, I was here a number of years first, and I decided I want to start to go back to talk to our brothers in the United States and help them with their Islam, okay? And I got a lot of flack. And I remember one time I sat into one meeting, I subscribed, and they had one meeting, and the people they knew who I was because I had been talking with them and so forth when they had meetings, we had Zoom and we had other things. They began to call me Black Arab and even said that I wasn't even a black man anymore. This is kind of silliness that is now here. I'm on the continent now. I'm really among black folk and brown folk now. They were saying that I wasn't black anymore. So when I asked them, I said, what do you mean by I'm not black anymore? They said, well, you left the culture. I said, I'm here in Africa. What are you talking about? They said, you left. So in other words, they were trying to say that the African American culture is over here and African culture is over here. And since I left that, then I'm wrong. This is the things that's perplexing about the African American community. It's very complexing, and they cannot get past certain things, and it's true. And this is why it's hurting us. We know in the back of our mind, even those bishops who's talking, who's making millions off of us at their United States, they know in the back of their mind that this religion is not theirs and it's false. It's not what Jesus preached, alayhi salam. See, that's the issue. These are facts. Ever the so-called immigration, yes, that most of the children will go to schools across the town, make charter schools. Yes, okay. What do you mean? These facts, even if after so-called, yes. I guess what you're trying to say. You said this is true, that there's not forced segregation, but black folks, they go and they say, look, I want to send my son to this school here because it's majority black, or are they saying that, no, I don't want my son, Johnny, to go to a predominantly black school. I want him to go to a predominantly white school. I don't know. But I saw this some years back, that it's not forced segregation, but black folk and white folk are going to schools where their population is the majority. See, so, and again, that's under the so-called Christian banner. This is what makes it so perplexing. I agree, Bob. America is and the lifestyle of America is a lost cause. When you sanction homosexuality, there's no religion that sanctions that. None. And they sanction that. Yet and still, if any of the brothers who are here today, knowing that it's only a few of us, we have, I don't know the ratio between black men. I heard it was a hell of a big number now. I'm trying to remember now if it was, there's 20 African American women to one black man. It's some astronomical number, outrageous. If the brothers here today, that's even the chat here, decided, okay, we want to protect our sisters, so I go take another wife. You cannot. You cannot take another wife. If you want to go and try to bring those, because there's going to be 19 sisters who won't have a husband. So we decide we'll take these sisters in. Each one of us take one or two other sisters. Maybe we have 3 wives to protect them, to give them honor. We cannot do it. But yet, if I decide I want to go marry a man who's another homosexual, I can. This is the stuff that's going on in America that does make no sense under the Christian banner. Homosexuality was, you were flogged and you were stoned to death under the Hebrew laws. See, and even in Islam, we have no sanction for that. But under Christianity, it does. Right? Most of the white students are still going to their, see, now she's an educator. They're still going primarily to their schools. And this is a simple fact. And it's a shame. If we can do that, that would make our own schools within the neighborhood. Yes. Some years back now, I went to school. I faced, discrimination from the time I can remember little kids. Even when I got to the university, I faced some discrimination. And it's a very damning thing when you think about that, because you're supposed to be an American, but yet you're not treated as an American. And then when you start to pick up this book and you go to your church and you pick up the Bible and you start seeing people have different versions of the Bible, You see people who are falling out in the church. You see people screaming and hollering, throwing up their name like they're about ready to faint out. Then they leave the church, they go fornicate, or they go to drink wine and beer, or they go eat pork and stuff, or they go smoke marijuana. See, all these issues like this is what's killing, is part of what's killing the African American today. Yes, that's the thing that upsets me, my dear brother. You said it right. I'm here in Africa. When I pull up predominantly African American shows or movies, I see homosexual themes in them now. Even commercials now, they show brothers involved in this scourge. See, so under the Christian banner, and it's filthy. It's filthy. Now I'm going to talk about something, brothers and sisters. We have some African Americans now are starting to look to ancient Egypt. They say that this may lead them to the right salvation. And let me tell you something. If you go back to ancient Egypt, as our brother here, King Cam Marcus here can tell us, Professor Marcus here, who's there, King Cam. When you start to study about ancient Egypt, and when you pull up the quote unquote negative and positive confessions, if you did follow that, two things will happen. One, it'll bring you to the right path. It'll bring you to the path of the prophets. Okay. It will bring you to wholesomeness, cleanliness, healthiness, and purification. Then it will lead you to Islam. Why? Because this religion is monotheism. I'm going to show you things, and I know people have been told no, because we've had this discussion. It's not. This is probably it's not, because the ancient Egyptians, as you heard me say before, just like in Islam. In Islam, we have 99 names, but we don't draw subhanahu wa ta'ala images. We're forbidden. But at that time, they did. They drew subhanahu wa ta'ala in images and gave names. We have 99 names for subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ancient Egyptians, I don't know how many numbers they had for what they called subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't know the number. I used to know the number, but there's many names. But I'm trying to make a point is that the African Americans are starting to leave Christianity and they're looking for salvation. They're trying to find it. They're skeptical about Islam because they see what's going on inside the United States. There are people who profess to be Muslims, but they look no different than they. They don't even pray. They smoke, drink. They do everything everyone else is doing. So they say, well, what kind of religion is that? And they don't know about Islam very well. So they say, okay, I don't want to go Islam because I see what I see here in the United States. So they start to look back into our past. They said, no, I don't want to be Juju. I don't want to be Voodoo. I don't want to be Obia. I don't want to be Ifa. So then they go further east and they hit Kemet, ancient Egypt. And they start to find things. And they start to understand certain things about life. And brothers and sisters, our brothers in ancient Kemet were something else. They had monotheism. You'll see many professors tell you, no, they believe in 1,000 gods. Don't believe that. They have the hymn of Ra, which is Tawheed. Tawheed, excuse me, when I use that as Arabic, Tawheed means the oneness of God. Oneness. Oneness means you don't sign partners to him. You take his laws, you take his ways and means, and that's what you live by and you worship under. Okay? This is what we mean by Tawheed in Arabic. Our brothers had strict codes. Our African American brothers and sisters in the United States are starting to find this when they pull up these negative confessions and the positive confessions. It gives some light to them, some hope. They have something that's clear cut now. And they feel this is something that's theirs. Why? Because it was on the African continent. They look at Christianity as a Christianity belonging to the Tubab American Europeans because they've hogged it, they've changed it, they made it into a white, quote unquote, white religion. So in the back of the mind of African Americans, many say, look, I want something where I can be proud of. I want something where our people are the caretakers of it. So they start to come to the continent and they start to go. So they go to Egypt. And then they start to pull up things like this. If anyone, and our brother Marcus, Professor Marcus here could tell you, anybody pulls up these things here, you'll find the 10 Commandments in them. Why? Because Moses Salam went to the mystery schools. He was taught these laws. But Subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his wisdom, when he talked to Moses, salam, he took 10 of these and told the people, he told Moses to enforce these 10 edicts. Our ancient brothers had 42 negative confessions. And they you know what, all right, man, come on now. Yeah. And here you had, when you're getting ready to go, and I don't want to get deep into this. I'll use some stuff here now. The ancient Egyptians and our African American brothers and sisters are going to this now. They're starting to hang on this. You can understand why. Because it's a black religion, no doubt about it. And they believe in Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's strict codes. This is very strict. If you do these things, you are in good shape on this earth, because it will lead you away from homosexuality. It'll lead you away from fornication. It'll lead you away from slanging and banging. All these things that's killing the African American community, this will take you to it. This will take you from it. Excuse me. That's what I mean. It will take you from that. These negative confessions has to be recited, they believe, what we call, at this time, we call Ka. Ka in the ancient Neher, in the language and the belief system of the ancient Egyptians. The Ka was when you were, when you died, okay? And you died on this earth. Your soul is under the guise what we call Ka and Neher, okay, Ka. The burial, the actual burial in the ground and being entombed in the ground is called Kara. We have Fulani people still with this name today, Kara. We still have that. And so when you're in the Ka, you would have to recite this. If you were negligent in this, you were going basically to be in a hard way. You were not going to have a good hereafter. And you were forced to recite these. And if you didn't meet up to these, see, and this is why African Americans are now starting to go to this, because they see something in it, because they feel something close to it. They feel like this is natural for them. This will help to clean them up if they took these negative confessions, if they understand what this is about. Again, this is, as I said before, this is the Ka. I'll get to you guys, brothers, in a minute in comments. Hold fast now. This is Ka. The Ka is the soul that's, when you die, is now entombed and so forth, and it's going to be free, and it's called Ka. So during this time, you will be reciting these things, and you'll be asked these questions. See? And then you'll have to recite this. We have African Americans now going to this. We have African Americans going to this. We have African Americans start to recite this. If you recite these 42 confessions every single day, it's going to take you away from the banging and slanging. It's going to take you away from whoring. It'll take you away from seeking weekend sexual conquests and so forth and so on. It will have our sisters clean up. Instead of her walking around switching her behind with short dresses and talking crazy, she will now be in her natural state, where our Black women were known in ancient times for our beauty and our grace. We don't have that anymore. Our African American sisters today, nowhere in the world, believe our women to be sanctified, gorgeous on the outside perhaps, but not on the inside. This here will clean up our sisters. This here will clean up our brothers. See? And I know, because I remember a long time ago when I was studying this stuff, I'm a young man, I'm in college, and I've got to hold this. I mean, I started to recite this to help me. Because I'm just like any other young Black man. I had girlfriends. I mean, I was doing like every other Black man was doing. This here would take you from that. If I adhered to this, the troubles I had probably in my marriage and so forth, marriages, I wouldn't have had this. But this here, our African American brothers and sisters are starting. I know my sister the other day, I don't know if she's here yet. My sister asked me about some of this, and I was trying to give her, I told her to go to Professor King Cam here, Marcus, to go join his platform, so that way she can start to get the African historical knowledge. But this here, brothers and sisters, is a beginner for you, to help you into getting you to the straight path. You got to leave Christianity. I don't know any other way of saying this. It's so it's so much confusion. You got 140 Bibles. You have 140 different versions of Bibles. They don't lead you to the right path. They have not helped us in the 400 years. They've done nothing for us but to continue on with slavery. The people that we supposed to be our brothers discriminate against us in all, from health, education, infrastructure. They still do it under the banner of Christianity. See, this is what we're talking about, and why this is so important. We have African Americans today say that they're starting to go to the negative confessions to help them to break that chain from Christianity, break that chain from smoking and drinking and fornicating and acting crazy. This here will help. If our sisters, my mother used to tell me something, and it's true. My mom used to tell me, when she got older and she got sick and stuff, I would sit down with my mother a lot because she was sick. I didn't know when she was going to pass. And she started reflecting on many things. And we were talking about the Black community and so forth and so on. She told me, she said, if the sisters would close their legs, I don't mean to be graphic, but she said to me, if the sisters would close their legs and open them only for their husbands, we wouldn't have the trouble today. You think about the wisdom that my mother just said. She said, if the sisters close their legs and only open them for their husbands, we would not have all of this. Because once these things happen, what do we have today, brothers and sisters? We have paternity fraud. I may talk about that in a short time, in another segment. We have paternity fraud now because women are sleeping with many variety of different men. They get pregnant. They choose one man who they want, who they feel has the most money, and they go after him and say it's his baby. We have all of that. We have sexual situations happen where people meet on the weekends, and when the brother say he don't want to be with her no more, she go to the police. And we have this, what they call it, Me Too now. They wait 20 years. They say, yes, Yahya, he did this to me in 1972. I was at McDonald's. He grabbed my buttocks. 30, 40 years later, we have all of this kind of stuff going on under the banner of Christian morals. And my mom said, if the sisters closed their legs and only opened them when they got married, we wouldn't have these difficulties. And it's true. Let's see what some of our brothers got to say here. Let's get caught up here. Okay, check. We believe. Yes. Okay, where are we at here? We got. Okay. Look here. I'm trying to look. Community. Yes. Yeah. We talked about this. If you start to go to negative confessions, this is going to be out. You won't be into that because you notice there about the fornication. It talks about the fornication. You shouldn't have done it. So we wouldn't have this thing. See, and he agreed. And our brother Marcus, hello from thank you, my dear brother, for showing today. And again, thank you, brothers and sisters, for subscribing to my station. Those who haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I've now made over 1,000 subscribers, and boy, I'm immensely appreciative of that. Thank you very much for that. And our brother here from Canada, thank you very much, my dear brother. Amen. And Aten was the most high of the Kenetic people. Yes, Amin Ra and Aten in Ra itself. Yes, the Egyptian, there was in segments. Now, Aten was around the seventh dynasty, or no, excuse me, the beginning of the 18th dynasty, when it was taken up by one pharaoh who was now restoring Tawhid again, because the ancient, just like any other period of time, you have people who's supposed to be under Tawhid, meaning the oneness of God, they begin to deviate from that. When this pharaoh, I don't want to get deep into, because it's not Egyptian history today, but he took it, and we all know who this man was, and he took it and he said, look, I'm going to change it to go back to make it more stringent. And he began to call, he has a writings too called the Hymn of Aten. He has that. So we know that to be the case. They believe in the hidden one. Yes. Now, this is what we talked about many times before, Ra. The Hymn of Ra is Tawhid, meaning talking about the power of the hidden one. The hidden one is the one who's behind the sun. See, not worshiping the sun, but the creator, the one who controls the universe, the one who controls the sun, is hidden. He's the hidden one. This is what we talk about in Ra, talking about ancient Egypt. This is what I'm saying, brothers and sisters. We have African Americans now going to this, and they're starting to study this, and they're starting to adopt these religious ideas from our ancient African brothers in Kemet. Is that, will I say this is a step up? Heck yes, if I can use profanity, but I cannot. I say heck yes. Why? Because the Christianity that you see today is, you look at the negative confessions and look at what's happened under Christianity. Big difference, isn't it? Big difference. See, our brothers are now hankering, and our sisters hankering for something to cling on. Two points to this. Again, as I said, one is to get it's like you have something on your body, you want to get rid of it, but you can't. You don't know how to get rid of it. Suddenly somebody tell you, look, go back to ancient Kemet and look at this thing called the 42 negative confessions. See, and they begin to clean up and leave that Christianity and start to clean up. Yes, that also, that's why our brothers are going to this. They're starting to hit ancient Kemet and start to look at how they believed. But again, I would tell those who do get involved in this, you will be limited, because you will see the portion behind it. But you have to understand deeply what they actually believe. I gave you some of that. The big portion that was developed in ancient Kemet was this concept of Ka and Ba. I talked about this in my classes, my Egypt classes. Ka and Ba. Our ancient brothers were staunch believers in the hereafter, and they believed it. Today, the Christians claim that they do in some ways, but they know in some ways they think no. Many think that the heaven is on earth, because that's why they talk the way they talk. And many don't believe there's actually they believe that they're going to heaven by virtue of them just saying they're Christians, or by virtue of their race. How many we've heard to say, when so-and-so died, we know he's up in heaven. We hear celebrities say this all the time. How do you know that? Because if they didn't follow the guides of Jesus Salam or any of the prophets, I don't know how anyone's going to be sanctioned to go. We in Islam, we don't believe that the people who worship under Christianity will go to heaven. We don't believe that. See? How you doing, my dear cousin? Thank you for showing up today. Keep saying that King James yeah, I had heard that, and I had read that also. And when he made the King James version, he took a lot of it out from the Hebrew, and it was translated, And even in the Song of Solomon, it mentions that he was black. It says, "O ye daughters of Jerusalem, I am comely, but I'm black but comely." Yeah, that's what he says. So the King James Version came of the Bible, but now, after that, they changed things around. That's why we go to East Africa and go west, because people think Islam came to Africa by the sword. Well, yes, Islam did not come to, because you think about that. The Prophet Islam and the sultans, I would use that word for better understanding. The emir, the sultans start to send people out for what is called dawah, invitation. They sent people into Africa, and they went across into the Savannah region. They encountered the Fulani. And they began to promote Islamic religion. And then from there, the Fulani took it and they spread it across the Savannah all the way up into the regions of we know Senegal. Today we know as Senegal. The Fulani, and again, this is not by the sword. The sword was used a long time. Excuse me, what the heck was that? I thought I heard something. Oh, I thought because my wife is out. I thought they thought that I lost my train of thought. Excuse me, I forgot what I was saying here. But anyway, yeah, the Fulani pushed this all the way across to Senegal. So we know that to be a fact. And religion, we have African Americans today are against religion because of what's happening in Christianity, and against Islam because what they think they know, when in fact they don't really know. And many think that it's an Arab religion, and there's a lot of things behind that. But yet and still, we have African Americans going to it. We have sisters who have taken the reign of Islam and jumped to it. But those who have not gone to that are starting now to go to Egypt, looking again under the Ka and whatnot. And the Ka again deals with the life that in Islam, okay, the life. On earth, and then you die. This is the Ka, and then the Ba is your other portion that's met in the atmosphere, okay, in the heavens. And they marry up. If you are good with the negative confessions, then you would be, your Ka and Ba would be going, and then you would be led to another part. It's a lot of stuff behind that, and I can't give that class today because it's very long and very, very complex. But I gave you some of it. How you doing, my dear brother? Read the Hadith. I don't know who you were talking to. Let me see if I read the Hadith. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Okay, the Prophet Muhammad was white in the Hadiths. Well, we're not going to get into that today. We have there's something about that, but there's dispute also. We have other Hadiths talking about his skin color, and I'll tell you something else. You look at the book of Al-Jahiz. Al-Jahiz was 100 years removed after the Prophet ﷺ. He wrote a book called The Superiority of the Blacks Over Whites. And why he said that is because of the growing racism that was happening in Jazeera Arab. He wrote this to remind people of the contributions and how Islam also was black. The Prophet ﷺ grandfather and father was jet black because he was 100 years removed from it. And then we also had others who wrote about what they saw of the Muslims. The Romans wrote about the Muslims when they began to fight them. They did not describe them as white. And also, here's the other thing. When the Muslims began to designate the Europeans as they come, they named them Romi. And there was another word they called them Amar, meaning red. That's another term that was used, talking about people, Arabic. But Amar is color. And they used this term to call white people. They didn't call themselves Amar because they were black and brown people. See, the Romans described who had a vision when the Romans were about ready to fight the Muslims to take control of Sham. Okay, he had the vision, and he said it was a man that he saw. He described this man, who he saw this man to be was Khalid Saifullah. We know him because he never lost any wars, and that's a deep history, but one of the greatest generals the world's known. That's true fact. Historians talk about him. He saw this man. He described him as a very dark-skinned black man, dark-skinned, heavily muscled, with potted faces and scars, because he fought so much. He had scars from, sword marks. He described him as dark brown black. See, and we also have other things written too by Al-Jahiz talking about that. So that's not completely true. Islam is the best and the Quran is the solution. Yes, it is the solution. And we have to get our brothers and sisters to see that. The stepping stone to that is many of them are going to the ancient Kemt religion. They're going to that. This should lead them to Islam because the ancient Kemt religion brought them to monotheism. It brought them to that. And I'll get into that. I'll answer a couple more questions here. The people of Kemt were American women who did not wear veils and burqa. Yes, they didn't take that because that's what was prescribed for them. But they still had chastity because they had strict laws. If you just looked at that, they had to recite these laws. And one of the laws is fornication. So they weren't walking around naked, as you see in some movies. They weren't doing that. Just because you see the murals, that's how the murals are drawn. But the people were not, they were under a strict code, and fornication was enforced. Okay, it was criminalized. And a lot of other things, coveting someone's wife and so forth and so on, being cruel to your neighbor, all these type of things. There was a Sharia for that. I think King Cam, Professor Marcus, I think he talked about that in one of his classes about some of the Sharia of ancient Kemt. Very, very interesting. My dear cousin, yes, how you doing? My answer has many tribes tied to me as far as finding a direct connection. Brothers and sisters, when you start to break away from the situations going on in the United States, you say, look, I'm tired of Christianity, but I don't know what kind of religion it is when you have all this stuff going on behind it. And you decide now, you take your DNA test and you now find out you're Hausa or you Fulani or Mandinka or whatever. You learn about that. I talked about this in a segment here about a year ago, I think, where I was telling the African Americans that once you find your heritage, you adopt that heritage, even the language if you can. If you cannot speak that dialect, because some dialects are very difficult. Swahili is so melodic because it's mixed with Arabic as well, but it's very melodic. And we find African Americans are adapting to speaking Swahili a lot. I recommend that you do take Swahili, get it, and take that as a second language if you can. But I would learn about my ancestry and take it. That's what I did. I found out because I wanted to know. And this was a burning desire. And when the DNA finally started to come out, I had one test, but it wasn't that good. It wasn't that strong enough yet. Way back when it first started, like 2003, something like that. I got something back about Sudan and stuff like that. But it wasn't a very good test at that time. But I got to a point where I found out what I was. When I found out I was Fulani, that it was over from that point. There was no more African American stuff anymore with me. I was Fulani, period. And also on my mom's side, because my mom's Fulani and Amazigh. See? And she got that Amazigh from Morocco. We know that. And so I took it and I ran with that. And when I found I have a history with the kingdoms, which we know the Saadiyin and stuff like that, and I did some linguistics talking about the Saadiyin, and I'm going to do some linguistics talking about West Africa here in other segments and stuff like that. But this is what I would recommend, my dear cousin. You find out whatever you are. If you find that you Igbo, learn about the people and adopt as much you can, even if the language, if you can. Try that if you can do that. I don't consider anyone black or white anymore. Well, yes, but my dear cousin, but but race is a fact. But you won't. That will leave you once you come to Africa. I had a difficult time adjusting to that. Not difficult, but I had to adjust. When I came here to Africa, especially to Morocco, I still had this nationalism thing with me. I see a very black-skinned Moroccan, I immediately want to gravitate toward him with brotherhood. But it didn't do that because here Islam takes precedence. I had to learn that. See, I had to clean that from me because race is a big issue, even though we may say that there's no, everybody's the same and all that, but we know it's not. It's still a black and white issue because it's always thrown in our face. Discrimination is always, when you go in the car, you know that you would not, people speeding past you, then policeman pulls you over only. And there it goes, here's come the race again. You'll say, if I wasn't black, he wouldn't do this. So race always plays a part in the United States. I think the term was used to emphasize the darkness of the skin tone. Okay, what word you guys talking about the skin tone? Please enlighten me because I don't know. I didn't catch that. What they were talking about here. What word did you guys talking about? Professor Cam said, what world is bigger than the United States? Our culture is international. Yes, it is. It is international. It's all over. The English language is all over the world. It's a lingua franca of the world today. You go anywhere in the world today, people speak English. See, we know that for a fact. So it is international. But again, I said at the, excuse me, at the first of my program, there's a big difference. The Americans are feared, not loved. And people come to America not because they love it, because they want something from it. That's not healthy. See, that's not healthy. We need your prayer. I hope you pray for the U.S. There are drones of use. Inspector strike is coming soon. Please, I hope you pray to get. Yes, we pray. We always pray for the good, and there's a humanity. There's a brotherhood in humanity we have, and we don't wish any ill harm because there's so much evilness in the world, and evilness doesn't know any color. It's everywhere. Africa, Jazair, America, Caribbean, South America. Evil is everywhere now in the world. So we pray, and our prophet said, it will come a time, someone will come, and it will bring the world under his banner, and we have peace that we never had before. That's coming. See, that's coming. I think Africans, we identify with the wrong heritage. I don't know. I don't know, because what heritage would be wrong? See, that's what I would say. Because today the Africans are not, nobody is 100% Belongo or 100% Hausa or Tuareg or Fulani or Igbo or Yoruba or Tiv. See, none of us are pure that. We have ethnic groups that we belong to. See, so I don't know what you mean by wrong heritage. I would say this. The African American have European ancestry. It's not his fault because of the slave master, what he did. Can an African American adopt a European? His heritage, say if he does DNA, he find out his slave master was an Irishman who had sex with his antecedents. Now, this would be the wrong heritage if you turn back around and say, you know what, I'm going to tell everybody I'm Irish. They're going to laugh at you when you get on a plane, you go to Ireland, you start telling somebody that you Irish and you look like me. Now, that's the wrong heritage. Even though it's in your blood, I don't claim it, because why should I claim it? And they wouldn't believe me anyway. And even if they did believe me, they still going to discriminate and hate me. Even if I change my name to an Irish name, even if I go there and say, hey, I'm an Irishman, they're going to look and laugh at me. That's the wrong heritage. But on the African continent, if you adopted Tuareg or Amazigh or any of the Soninke or Bambara or something, no, that's not wrong. My opinion, it's not wrong. And I'm going to get to a few more of these, and I'm going to get to this other part about ancient Egypt, and I'll be closing up. I get a couple of more sentences. Look up their Canary Islands there, Amazigh. Yeah, Amazigh are everywhere. Amazigh is mostly in North Africa and Mauritania. And then and we have some Amazigh, of course, in modern times, moved to Niger and so forth and so on, and whatnot. They are, excuse me. They are described as white Europeans. Check it out, please. No, brother. You're going to have to go back to look at my class. I talked about the Amazigh, and I've made mention of this many times. In the fifth and sixth century, there was a Italian explorer, archaeologist. He wanted to learn more about the Amazigh. He talked about the Amazigh. In the 5th century, 6th century on, they were black at the time. And they were not white until the 1800, because what happened was when the new rise, as the Europeans began to come into, especially into Morocco, Aqsa, meaning the greater Morocco, Western Morocco, they began to live there and they began to marry. And they became Amazigh. And so we have the whitening of that. But we still have a large section of Amazigh in Mauritania. See, there was black, but the original Mauritanian people, the original Amazigh people were black. We have pictures of that, and we have eyewitness accounts. When Roderick was, when the 7/11 invasion, you had Amazigh, you had Soninke, you had Fulani, mainly Fulani. You have Bambara and even Wolof when they hit Andalus, was modern day Spain. And you have to look at this. And so we know that when he saw these people, they talked, he described them as black. He said each was blacker than the other. This is in 7/11. We had Amazigh there. There were no whites. We understand Amazigh today, there were none, because they described them as black. And Roderick described them. We have all this documentation. 729, Charlemagne of France. It wasn't France, it was called Gaul, I think, at the time. I can't remember what they called France at the time. When the Muslims was taking some portions of France, there was a big battle. Charlemagne wrote a poem talking about the people who were in Andalus. You had the Amazigh, you had Tuareg, you had the Fulani people, and they mixed, and they had another population they called Melungeon, because they took the Spanish woman and they mated with her and so forth. But Charlemagne said that the people were so black that the only thing white on them were their teeth. So what are you talking about? See, the Amazigh, and those, it wasn't until the 1800s that the whitening of the Amazigh people came about, and that whitening is still going on today. See, I took African ancestry test, and my mother's side was, yes. My father's side was, Central Africa, yes. So you take one, my dear cousin, you take one and you adopt that. And you call yourself that. You call yourself Mindy American, whatever. That's great. And that's what you should do. I urge all African Americans to do this. All. How you doing, my dear brother? Shadid? Yes, okay. Thank you very much, brother, for that. I don't know if you're Moroccan or whoever you are. من فضلك اكتبوا في إنجليزية ولكن لماذا الناس لا يفهموا عربي. Okay, I'm just talking Arabic to our dear brother. I want him to write in the English language because here people don't speak Arabic too much. Okay, here's the same. Okay, Shahid is the emphasis of Aswad. Well, meaning extra black. Extra black means Adam. You know that if you speak Arabic language, the extra black is Adam. That's black, black, black. Adam. It's not as how many Arabs there were described. Yes. Well, see. No. You again. I'm trying to. Shahid is the emphasis of Aswad, but I don't know what you mean by that. Meaning extra black. How many Arabs of that time were described? How many? Yeah, they were described that they were black. Yes, Adam was the term used. I think that's what you meant by it, because I'm trying to understand the English how you worded that. Okay, the Amazigh created. Yes. The Amazigh people we know came out of ancient Egypt. They were known as Mazab. Okay, Mazab. And there was one small book in Arabic written about who came across from ancient Egypt, do you know that they formed a nation in present day we call Algeria, which Algeria is actually Morocco, but the French divided up Al-Maghrib and made Algeria. They formed a country they called Dola Shabaka. Now that name sounds familiar, that's my name. They called it Dola Shabaka. And from that, the Amazigh began, they left that, when that broke up, they left becoming different Qaba'ils. I'm using Arabic for our brother who knows the different villages and clans. They became Sanhaja. They became Lemtuna. Zanata, and so forth and on. They became all of these particular groups. Okay, that's good. Now, I'm going to go to this here, and I'll be closing, brothers and sisters. We have the positive laws. I wanted to show you something. The our ancient brothers had something also about this. Excuse me. Yeah. Let me go to here. Nope. Okay, where are we at here? Ooh, the positive. Okay. The ancient Egyptians had something positive also in their religion. You look at this here. This is again confessions that our brothers. This is why African Americans are running to the ancient Egypt and to start to develop this ka, what is called ka, starting to develop this. It's a strengthening of the heart. Okay, the deepness of the heart, we know is ka in the ancient Egyptian. I'm just giving you some linguistics here. Keeping the waters pure, speak with good intent. These are things you got to recite. This will take you to the right path. Praise the good, the godliness and God. I am humble. I achieve in this, all of these. Why? Because my sister made me think about this the other day, because she talked to me somewhat about this. And I tried to explain to her, I told her to get a hold of to Professor Cam so that she could join his podcast and so forth and so on. And I was talking to her a little bit about this. I told her, before you go into that, you need to understand what the ancient Egyptians actually believe. But these are some of the what is called the positive confessions, which is another 42 of these. They are very, very interesting. Okay, very, very interesting in some of these. And like here, we have, this. It's our brothers and sisters in America now are starting to adopt this to help clean themselves up. Why? Because Christianity cannot do it. Because it's hypocrisy. You read the Bible, and then you have whorehouses. You read the Bible, and they say it's brotherhood, and there's widespread discrimination against Black people. They say they're Christians, but they believe there's a hierarchy. The whites still hold from their misinterpretations, saying that the Blacks were cursed by God. We have all that under Christianity. This is why this makes this so bad. And these recitations help to clean up. But again, this will lead you to Islam, Because if you start to look at this, and this is Tawheed, if you begin to actually go to this, it'll start to lead you to Islam and so forth. And this is better than the Christianity, because Christianity is not leading you nowhere. It cannot purify the black man. It can't give the black man his to help him purify. He cannot. Islam can. The religions that was practiced in Egypt, it can start you on the right path and lead you to Islam, because they believe in Tawheed. Let me see, I get this here. And this, again, you'll find some of these things that are in the 10 Commandments. And again, brothers and sisters, this is written 3,000 years before the Bible and before the 10 Commandments. So how did these things find its way into the 10 Commandments? Because Moses was in the Egyptian schools. He knew of these laws. He knew of these recitations, but Subhanahu wa ta'ala talked to him and told him, I want you to enforce these 10, because there's many. If he was doing all of them, it'd be 82. So Subhanahu wa ta'ala, his wisdom, I can't speak for Subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I'm just saying that in his wisdom, he told Moses to enforce 10 of these. See, so that's something to grasp on, brothers and sisters. We got here. Let me get to here a few more here. I don't know if we obviously created. Okay, we talked about that. My dear brother, do you know who? No, I don't know who that person is. I don't know who he said. That's why. No, I don't know, my dear brother. I don't know who that person is. That was what's our road in Arabic? Adam shit means that dark skin. Yes, yes. Adam. Yes. That's why I was talking about Adam means black, very, very dark skin. Yes, that's why I recited it back. And I was telling you that, I'm glad you put this back in English, because the people here, majority don't understand Arabic. That's why I was talking about Adam means very, very dark, very, very dark skin. So that tells you too something, doesn't it? Adam and Eve, Adam derives from the word also. And under the Akan language, Adam also has this connotation, meaning very, very black. See, we know that. The Subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he formed man out of black mud. That's in the Quran as well. See, that's very interesting, isn't it? It's important to learn the basics. Yes, to learn the basics. If you want to study that, you have to start from the beginning, because you have to understand what are you getting yourself into. You got to ask yourself that question. So when you say you're going to do something and you're going to join something, you need to understand what it's about. Here, how could the Arabs be black when Bilal was facing? I'm going to tell you, let me say this to you. We can't get deep into this. The Muslims and Jazeera Arab, we don't understand Saudi Arabia at that time, and even into Sham and so forth and so on. There were black people there because the people were described as black and brown people, but they looked down on the Africans. That's the same way as the Western brother from Los Angeles looks down on the brother from Mississippi. You see, because I remember even myself, when we had the brothers coming from Mississippi or Alabama, or Arkansas, they had accent, their ways and means were different. We didn't it's not that we looked discriminate, but we looked at them like, something's not right. So there was a discrimination to that. And the fallacy is that the Arabs are white. But if this is the case, then why, when they described the Romans, they described them as Amar, red. And they described them as Romy. They made a distinction between them and them. So if they were the same color, how can it be? And again, the book that was written by Al-Jahiz, Yaqub Al-Jahiz, he wrote the book talking about the region. He described the people 100 years removed from the Prophet ﷺ's death. He described the people as black, but Prophet Muhammad, his lineage, Ali, Radwan, all he described them in his book. And we had discrimination because as people start to, we had lighter brown complected people, because even Herodias said that when he left Egypt to go through Jazir or Arab, he found black people, but they were not as black and their hair was less kinky. And then when he got up all the way to Iran, he said they were still black, but their hair, some had straighter hair and some had curly hair, but their skin was black. You got to go back to the history books and read those things and so forth and so on. The discrimination that he faced was not, he was enslaved. That was the bottom line. He was enslaved. So, that was at that part of that history that was not good. I don't know by what, I don't know what you mean. He was the first emir, he described as black among the, please look him up. Yes, I talk about that, and maybe I'm going to talk about the Murabi tomb here also, inshallah, at that island. We'll clear up some of this fallacy, because you see the Murabi tomb today, they show them being basically white, and it's not right. I got a lot of DNA matches of in Saudi Arabia, but that's very, very interesting. That's very, very interesting. That's very interesting, because I don't know too many black people today that have some of that. Most of all African Americans, their lineage stopped in Egypt, because there's a reason for that. Because we're tied to Egypt, because we have that EM series and all that. I went to that, but I won't go into that today. Okay, DNA. Yeah, okay. Thank you, brother. We'll talk about that. Yeah. Well, I don't know what that. Yeah, I'm curious what that he's talking about that as well. So, brothers and sisters, I covered this today, and I'm glad that we talked about this, and I'm hoping that we got something out of this. And please subscribe to my station, brothers and sisters, on this, because these are unorthodox talks. These are talks that we should be talking about, but nobody talks about. But this is a talk that'll help you to get things off your chest. You want to talk about about the black people in America. Why? Because here on the continent, our black brothers here and the Africans, period, have a lot of misconceptions about the African American. They don't understand why the African American act the way he acts. See, so this is a way we can kind of talk about things like this, and a lot of us don't understand why they believe what they believe. But we have problems on the continent too, because we have Africans who are just as blinded as African Americans. They take Christianity and they have white Jesus Christ, and they take it in the wrong way. And even they have churches where it's been exposed, where the bishop is funneling women to say, quote unquote, to purify them. There's pregnancies going on. I mean, there's all kind of stuff going on under the banner of Christianity. And this is why we have problems in this field. Please look the name. That's what for the first Emirs. And historians say he was murdered by Amazir. He was called black. I don't think Amazir are black. Well, yeah, as I told you before, you don't have to take my word for anything, because you look at the Amazir today, but you have to ask, where did the black Amazir come from? There's still a lot, and a lot of them are still black, even in Mauritania. And on top of that, who was the Murabi tomb? Murabi tomb came around in the 10th century, I mean the 1000s. Who were they? They were black. See, because we have descriptions of that, because Europeans came and taught and did this. And again, Roderick, when boy, my train of thought today, I don't know if I'm getting sleepy or I don't know what's going on with me, because it's late here in Morocco. When we had Ibn Zayed, who went into Andalus in 711, Roderick described him and all the ones that came, those Amazigh plus those that came out of Takrir region, as black. So you need to go look at that. You have another case. You have case of also, there's not Roderick, what's the other one? I can't think of his name now. He described the Amazigh and all those again as black. When the Murabi tomb came in the 1000s, he described them as black. Charlemagne from France described the Muslims invading France as black. He said only thing white on them were teeth. And again, we had Amazigh. we had Amazigh, we had, and even the Arabs who appeared at that time in those lands were black as well. See, so that's, and I had many debates with my brothers here in Morocco about this issue, because they look at the Amazigh today and that's what they go by. But I said, look, well, why did these Europeans say this? See, and so forth and so on. And we have a lot of European scholars who wrote. Scobie said that when the invasion come, he was there. He said they were black, pitch black, as he described them. They were Amazigh. They were pitch black. The first man who wanted to make one of the discoveries from Morocco into America was a black man. And Morocco just did a big thing on him here last year, some anniversary date about when he went, and his name is written in stone there in Arizona. He was black, Amazigh. The slave that was captured from Morocco, taken into America, he was Amazigh. My grandmother, who's part Fulani and Amazigh, she was taken, we think around 1830. Her name was Fatma. She was black, Amazigh and Fulani mix. See? So we have all this proof. You have all of this mixture. And when the Portuguese came in the 1400s, they took many Moroccans. They didn't take quote unquote white Moroccans, because still Morocco was black, because they took a lot of Moroccans and brought them into the Americas. That's why today, if you look at Jet Match in particular, you find Amazigh people who are still, or who are white today, have African American cousins in the United States. How can that be? How can that be? I gave tests to some Moroccans here, and they're white, okay, very white skinned. When their results came back, they had relatives in the United States and they're African Americans. So how can that be? You got to think about that. Can you do just research and gauchos who are isolated on Canary or white, Amazigh or not? Okay, yeah, we said that. Yes, in modern day, but we're talking about ancient times. So you can't say that the real Amazigh is white. That's not the case, because the real Amazigh people who came about, even the scholar in the 500s who came to Al-Maghrib Aqsa, he described the Amazigh people as black. And it goes on and on. 711, Roderick said the Amazigh, the Arabs, the others who came across from the desert, he says, from the Sahara, who were the Senike, Fulani, and Bambara, and Wolof, who joined their Amazigh brothers to go into Andalus, he said all were black. He said each was blacker than the other. So, brother, please, you do your research. I gave you all of that. You look up all of that. Stop talking about the Amazigh today. Yes, they're white. Many of them are white, or light skin or light brown skin. That's today. But how about 200 years ago? They weren't white. They became whitened because when many Moroccan people today, they're very, very white. They take their DNA, they find they have European ancestry. Because why? The Europeans came into Al-Maghrib and they stayed here and they became Amazigh, okay? And they adopted language. And many of those Europeans didn't marry Amazigh people, but they took the names of Amazigh and they became Amazigh. They even spoke the language. Some speak Amazigh and others speak Arabic. We know that here in Morocco. Why is their DNA coming back to Europe? Because of their grandfathers stuff when they came. And many didn't even intermix with anybody, see? But they call themselves Amazigh. So you have to do your research. Many Muslims, for tarnish the image of African American Muslims may have. Yes, that's why I was saying, my dear brother, that many African Americans are saying, okay, I'm going to leave Christianity, but I don't want to go to Islam, because they see the example of the Muslims in Philadelphia, in New York City, in Los Angeles, California, and Dallas. They see Muslims and they find them not to be real Muslims, because they do the same thing that the Christian brothers do: smoking, drinking, fornicating. See, so they say, I don't want to be a Muslim because they're doing the same thing I'm doing. So they start to come back to the continent and they now going to Egypt. That's why I was talking about this, because my sister was enlightening me when she was talking to me. Here's my sister here now. She's here because she was asking me about this type of thing. And I was telling her to join Professor, Cam here and join his podcast and whatnot, because she's talking about the people starting to look to ancient Egypt and stuff like this. Get rest, cousin. I don't know what you're talking. Okay, and this is my sister. Yeah, this is my sister here. Again, we talking about African Americans, if they should leave Christianity, and then we're talking about now African Americans are running to Egypt to now adopt the Egyptian religion, and many of them don't understand actually what they're believing. But I was talking about the negative and positive confessions, which is 42 negative confessions and there are 42 positive. This is ancient Egypt and Kemp. This was part of the system they call Ka. Okay, Ka in Meta in the language that was spoken in ancient Egypt is part of the Ka. It was developed here on the earth, and when you die, your soul would rest in a place Kara. Kara is part of Ka, and you're resting, and your soul is resting, and now it's the Ka. So the Ka will marry up with the Ba that's in the universe. This is what was believed. So you had to recite in order for your souls to meet, your Ka, which is your nafs in Arabic, your heart, your being, your soul is called Ka. The ancient Egyptians believed this. And so if you recite those 42 negative confessions and you are cleared of that, now your Ka will leave the Kara, which is the grave, go and marry up in the heavens with the Ba. Your spirit is running free. This is what they believed. See, this is what they believed. And they would marry up the Ka and Ba. That's why you notice that many of the Egyptian pharaohs had names, prefixes, and our brother, if he's still here, had prefixes and other names of Ka and Ba. You'll find, like my name, my sister, Sha Ba Ka. Ba Ka. See, because they were deeply religious. Shah has to do with ethnic group of Nubia. There's no doubt. And then the Ka and Ba is representative of what they believe. This is why you notice many of the pharaohs had the last names Ka, or the prefix Ka, and the last name Ba, or they had the first name Ba, and they had other names with it. Us, the Fulani people, we have Kara. Kara. See, because we believed in that. It's deep. If you're going to get into the Egyptian religion, you have to understand these things. You have to understand these parts of that. And there's linguistic things behind that as well. Okay, our brother here, I swear, never had any sibling before, and they were okay only after it ended because the Amazigh. Yes, but see, who were the Amazigh people before they became Amazigh? That's what you have asked, and I'll give you that answer. They call them Mozab, and you should know that. Let me write that down here so people understand what I'm talking about. Before they became Amazigh, they were known as Mozab in ancient Egypt. They came across the Sahara with the Fulani and other ethnic groups. They stayed to the north. The Fulani left from the north to go to the south to the Savannah regions. This is why many Fulani and the Amazigh today, you intermix. Why many Moroccans here have Fulani heritage. See, they have that heritage. And many Fulani in the corridor, especially the Western corridor, have the Amazigh heritage. And they'll find from Jet Match, their ancient history stretches back, you'll find this word Mozab. Mozab were the original people who came out of Egypt. See? Okay, when the arms collapse, chase them. Okay, yeah, that's, yeah, okay. Yes, the word Moor, the Amazigh people are Moors. How could the Amazigh people become Moors if they were white? They did not call white people whites Moors. The Amazigh people were black. They were called Moors. Moors was the term designated for black people. And also, when they were also called moral. Okay, this I will write this here. Also, you guys do your research on this, especially the Moroccans that are here. The Portuguese in particular and the Spanish begin to adapt when they found out that you came from Al Maghreb Aqsa, or especially Al Maghreb, as we understand today. They call us Moro for one, morals for two. That's how Morocco came with the name. It's dealing with Moor, with being black, because the Moro were the people who they had black slaves. They call them Moro because they came from where? Al Maghreb. Now, we have one relative, my sister could tell you, by the name Moro. Moro. Moro is a term designated for Moroccans. Moro. Black Moroccans. That's right. So we got to do our research. And our dear brother here is giving his salam to my sister. Thank you very much, my dear brother. And there were slaves, were hundreds of thousands of Europeans were enslaved. Yes, in North Africa, yes, hundreds of thousands. And they were released and they were granted citizenship and they married here. Many didn't intermarry and they became Amazigh. That's why many Amazigh people today, I saw on YouTube, they took their test. They were talking about, I think I have this, I think I have that. They found out they're almost practically 80%, 70% European because their ancestors came, they didn't intermarry, but they became Amazigh by default because they lived in Al Maghreb. See, we have to look at all of these things before we chatter off something. Because I know many Moroccan brothers and sisters, they get angry because they said, no, my people were white, they were never black. Because you look at the people today, but you don't go to the history. And there's no, what's in the wrong if you have heritage, your ancestors were black. You're going to tell me that the Murabitun were not, they were white? No. How about the Muwahidun? They were black. How about the Mediin? They were black. The Sadiyin came after that. They were black. Who were the sultans? They were black. When the last group with the Alawin we have today, who were the original sultans? Black. Look at our king today. His heritage, we're black. You have to get past that. I know a lot because of racism starting to come in. We have many of my brothers and sisters can't accept that fact. I saw a beautiful sister 5-6 years ago took DNA. When she found out that she had Fulani and Bambara heritage, I thought she was going to die because she was very, very pale skinned. And she didn't know where this came from. She said, my dad are very white. My grandfather, but somebody in their heritage came from the South and they were Fulani Bambara. And she was shocked at that. So we got to look at that and we have to accept things the way they are. They took a journey to the imperishable stars. Okay, I think there's maybe some side things on this. The Mozab, what I was talking about earlier here, I thought Mozab is searching for. Okay, brother. Yeah, okay. Mozab is the ancient term for the Amazigh people. And I said also Moro, talked about the word Moro. From Moro means Moroccans. The Portuguese also called, what did they call Al Maghreb? Marroquin. Marroquin. We have Mexicans today living in the United States with the last name Marroquin. How is that? And that's part of Moro, meaning black. Morocco came from, when the name Morocco came, Morocco. Think about that. One of the enforcers for Roderick was a big black man. He called him Moro. That's his name. They called the Moroccans Moros because they were black. And the Europeans coined the term Moors to describe us. See, but those that came from this region, they call us Moro and Moros for many. So we have to look at our history. We got to see, and we have to understand that scholars were murdered because, you've been talking about. Wait a minute here. Let me see here. Where are you at? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Where we got? Yes, as the president. Yeah. See, it was yes. Yes, and see, this is again a good history about this issue. As African Americans leave the Christian religion, they start to come here to the African continent. We have African Americans who have Moroccan heritage. They can't quite understand what happened, but they got to understand, because in the 1400s and on, for about 100 years, the Portuguese took a lot of people from here into the Americas. That's why I told you, we have Moroccans here that I gave them. They're not black. They're very light-skinned. When I gave them tests, they found they had African American relatives. They were shocked because here it's kept quiet. They don't talk much about what the Portuguese did, but they took slaves and they took black people. They didn't just come into Morocco and try to find a black when they saw, oh, there's one black, and they took him because everybody's white. No, because everybody was black, even in the 1400s. And the Portuguese took many from here. Many, thousands upon thousands. See? Bro is using the phone. Yes, that's the, yeah, okay, yes. There, in the Philippines, the southern, in Mindanao, yes. Yes, they have that term. But we don't believe they took it from that. But again, I don't know, because the Spanish were there. Maybe the Spanish, because the Filipinos, if you know, way down in the South, there's a lot of black. Okay, we know that in the Philippines, they have native black people there. We know that. So I'm not sure if the Spanish, when they went to the southern part of the Philippines, they began to call them black. They call them Moro, because there's very, very black-skinned Filipinos way to the South. I know that. So that's a good thing, my dear brother, that you brought up here, because I'm not sure they called them Moro because they were black. I don't know, or maybe this is under the Filipino, I forgot what they called the language they spoke in the South. I can't remember now what the language is. I'm not sure, but that's a good point. The pyramid text discuss the journey of the Ka going to the stars. Yes, because they talk about that and whatnot. And because of the deep, this is again why the African Americans, if you're going to go into dealing with with ancient Kent, and you want to recite the confessions, you want to cite the positive confessions, which are 42. You want to cite the negative confessions, which are 42, which total of 84. You want to do all of that. You need to understand and get the understanding, basic understanding. You follow our professor here, you'll get that basic understanding. Because when you start dealing into complex, because now you get into linguistics, because I just got into some of this Ka and Ba. But our ancestors there in ancient Egypt took these names and they developed a religion that's very complex and also very deep, because they were concerned about the living and they were concerned about the hereafter. See, very, very concerned. Most African Americans today only concern themselves about the living. They don't concern themselves about the dying and about what's the hereafter. See, and they adopted the Europeans just because you're American, you're going to go up to heaven. It doesn't work that way. And if you go and adopt the African religion, that to tell you, because you better have your A game. If you died, you better been on your A game, meaning you better been well within those negative confessions that you did not do. You did not covet your neighbor's wife. You did not fornicate. You did not disrespect God, and so forth. So all of these negative confessions came down. And so you need to understand. And this Ka is a big thing to the ancient Egyptians. Ka was a big thing because it's on earth and it was dealing with your soul on the earth. So it's very, very complex. I ordered an answer. Yes, you had to find out what. That's good, my dear brother. Yes, please inform me too. Write me when you get all these results. Please let me know, because I'm curious about that myself. I'm very, very curious to find out about that. Okay, I said our grandmother named our uncles and aunties. Yes, they had unusual names. I told that before. I tried to rack my brains where did they get these names from, and then when I start doing research, I find the names are here in Morocco. That's what makes it even so funny. The names are germane here, because even the word Linda is also prevalent here in the Amazigh language. It's not a European name. Mommy named my sister Linda, which is not common. Now you have some white folks that took the name Linda, but most black people took that name. But Linda is reference to Amazigh language here in Al Maghrib. This is what makes everything fascinating. Everything's so fascinating. See, and even Gladys, those names are not common. See, so this is very, 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 very interesting. And we have, we thank you, my sister here, for recognizing Professor Cam. I think we called them Moors because the Spanish said that the Muslims were just like them. See, women, no, dear brother, that's not the case. The more when the Europeans start to call us names, they begin to develop some talking about us. They use the term Moor to describe the color of skin. This is what the Europeans call the black people when they begin to encounter them from North Africa. They call them Moors. So there was offshoots of that, as you heard me say. This had nothing to do with the Muslims because the term Moor came before the Muslims came about. See, I'm informing you, brother, about go. Okay, thank you for showing up, my dear brother. Walaikum salam. Thank you very much for showing up today. I appreciate that. And I'm going to have to be getting ready to slide out of here pretty soon myself because it's very, very late here. It's already 10:30 something here. So, I have to get up earlier here. But this is a worthy talk today. And I'm glad everybody showed up. And my dear brothers and sisters, again, I've got over 1,000 subscriptions. I thank everybody for that. Those who have not subscribed, please subscribe. Please support your brother. I really appreciate that and everything. And everybody, please stay safe. And all those who showed up today, thank you very much for showing up. I really appreciate that very much. And I'm hoping I have some other talks here, and I will get back to you here in a couple of days or so and everything on another topic. But I wanted to talk about this because I believe that the African Americans at a crossroad, they need to decide on what they're going to do. And they're going to need to clean themselves up. They cannot do it. We're on a deadly path in the United States. Too many of us are smoking. Too many of us are smoking and drinking. Too many of us are fornicating, men and women. We have paternity suits that are rampant. We have diseases that are rampant. We have, because of fornication, we have women who are wounded or upset because the relationship failed. They go to the police and say that they were ravished, and that we have brothers in jail because of that. We have all of this going on, not only in the African American community, everywhere in the United States. And many African Americans are looking for something, and they're looking out to Africa to find out what they can use to clean themselves. So that's why I wanted to talk about that today. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much for showing up. Anjarama for my Fulani brothers and sisters. Salam alaikum. Rahmatullahi barakatuh.